Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be looking at a story from the Book of Mormon,
Okay.
specifically from the Book of Helaman, chapter 2.
Sounds good.
It's a story full of intrigue, and I think it has a lot of relevance for today.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story that really, we see kind of these patterns play out over and over again throughout history, struggles for power, and the dangers of secrecy.
Yeah, and this is set during a time of transition for the Nephites, right?
Exactly.
So to set the scene for everybody,
Okay.
we're in the 42nd year of the reign of the judges.
Okay.
And this new leader, Helaman, has just been appointed. His father has just passed away.
Right.
And he's stepping into some pretty big shoes.
He is.
Verse 1 describes him as a just man, and he did walk uprightly before God.
That's right.
Seems like a pretty good guy, right?
He's like a pretty good leader.
Yeah. Ideal leader.
But as we know,
Yeah.
leadership, even righteous leadership, has its challenges.
Always.
And this is where our story takes a dramatic turn. And we have this character, Kishkumen, who enters, who wants to get revenge on the previous leader, Pahoran.
Interesting.
And he sets his sights on Helaman
Oh, so there's conflict right from the start.
right away. And
Yeah.
then it gets even more interesting
Right.
because we have another character that is introduced,
Okay.
Gadianton.
Oh, Gadianton, yeah. He's a real piece of work.
He's described as being exceedingly expert in many words and also in his craft to carry on the secret work of murder and of robbery.
Wow, so this guy is dangerous.
He's a dangerous guy.
Yeah.
And what makes him even more dangerous is he's really good at operating in secret.
Mm-hmm.
So he forms the secret combination with Kishkumen's followers,
Wow.
binding them together in this pact.
A secret combination.
That's what they call it, yeah.
Okay, so this is getting scary.
It is getting a little scary.
Like, how do you even combat something like that?
Well, and that's what makes it so dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hidden.
Yeah, they're operating in the shadows.
In the shadows, exactly.
So what happens next?
Well, Helaman's going about his business,
Okay.
unaware of this danger that's lurking around him.
Right.
Luckily, he has a very loyal servant
Okay.
who ends up uncovering this assassination plot.
Like a spy.
Kind of like a spy thriller, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Verse 6 describes how he put on his disguise
Oh,
in
God.
order to infiltrate this band and learn about their plans.
That's pretty brave.
He is incredibly brave
Yeah.
and resourceful.
That's amazing.
And then he has this encounter with Kishkumen himself.
Oh, that must have been nerve-wracking.
I know.
So what happened?
Well, in verse 7, the servant goes to Kishkumen,
Okay.
gives him a sign pretending to be in on the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And Kishkumen, thinking that he's found an ally, reveals all of his murderous intentions.
Wow.
So he basically asks the servant to lead him to Helaman
Oh, my God.
so he can carry out this assassination.
That is intense.
Yeah, so the servant's got to think quickly.
What did he do?
Well, he pretends to agree, starts leading him towards the judgment seat.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine the suspense?
It must have been a heart-stopping moment.
Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat here.
And as they were approaching the judgment seat, the servant, in a really courageous act, stabs Kishkumen in the heart.
Wow.
And he falls dead without a groan.
Wow.
Verse 9.
That's incredible.
And then immediately runs and tells Helaman everything that has happened.
Oh, my gosh. So Kishkumen's dead.
Kishkumen is dead.
But what about Gadianton and the rest of the gang?
Well, Helaman, now knowing what's going on,
Yeah.
tries to capture the rest of the conspirators.
Okay.
But Gadianton, being a very cunning and dangerous man, senses danger and flees with his followers into the wilderness.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
They got away.
They got away.
That's like a partial victory only.
It is kind of a partial victory because, like you said, Gadianton and his followers are still out there.
This isn't over.
This isn't over.
It feels very ominous.
Yeah, it does. And, the scriptures confirm this, that Gadianton and his secret organization are going to be around for a while,
No.
causing problems for generations to come.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is just the beginning.
This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow. I can't wait to find out what happens next.
No, it's going to get really interesting.
I'm hooked.
Me too.
So this incident with Kishkumen, it's really just the start of a much bigger problem for the Nephites.
Yeah, it really is.
I mean, Gadianton and his secret combination.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About how often we see these kinds of things happening.
Yeah, throughout history.
Yeah, throughout history.
You know, groups operating in the shadows and manipulating events for their own gain.
Right.
Like, are we seeing echoes of Gideon's tactics even today?
Oh, absolutely. I think we do.
Yeah.
You know, think about it. We see it in, political corruption, organized crime, even in the way some businesses operate.
Yeah.
This constant struggle between transparency
and secrecy.
And those who thrive on secrecy.
That's a little scary. So how do we learn to recognize these patterns?
Yeah.
Like these Gideon figures.
That's a good question.
In our own lives.
I think verse 4 gives us some clues.
Okay.
It describes Gideon as being expert in many words.
Okay.
And using his craft to carry on secret work.
So like a con man almost.
Yeah, kind of a con man, someone who's really good at manipulating people.
Yeah.
So I think it highlights the importance of being discerning.
Okay.
Not just taking things at face value.
Right. So we need to look beyond the surface.
Exactly.
Don't be swayed by charisma or, empty promises.
Absolutely.
So critical thinking is important.
Critical thinking is super important.
Yeah.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
Especially when things seem too good to be true or when information is being withheld. Because Gideon's power really came from exploiting the trust and the naivety of others.
So that's scary.
Yeah.
It really highlights the importance of being informed and engaged. Verse 13, it talks about how the robbers of Gideon did spread over all the face of the land.
Right.
Like their influence grew because people were either unaware or unwilling to confront them.
Right. And that's how these kinds of things can take root.
So you're saying silence or even apathy can contribute to the problem?
Unfortunately, it can.
Wow.
We have a responsibility to, educate ourselves, to be aware of what's happening around us.
Yeah.
And to speak out against injustice and corruption wherever we see it.
Yeah. You're basically saying we can't afford to be passive bystanders.
We can't.
Yeah.
We have to be active participants in safeguarding our communities and our societies.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
It is. It's a powerful story.
Yeah. And it's amazing how a story from thousands of years ago can still be so relevant for us today.
That's the power of Scripture, right?
Yeah.
It speaks to these timeless human struggles.
Yeah.
And offers guidance for navigating the complexities of life. And I think the story of Gideon is a powerful reminder that the choices we make, both individually and collectively, have far-reaching consequences.
They do.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up this part of our discussion,
Okay.
I'm curious to know what happens next.
Okay.
Does Helaman manage to stop Gideon and his band of robbers? So we were talking about this story from the Book of Helaman, chapter 2.
Right.
Full of intrigue and murder and this thread of this secret combination.
Yeah, it's a story about choices.
Yeah.
The choices that people make.
Yeah, and how they affect not only themselves, but future generations.
Absolutely, the ripple effects that extend way beyond.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's go back and look at some of these characters.
Okay.
And see what we can learn from them.
Sounds good.
So first we have Kishkumen.
Right.
Who was so driven by revenge.
Yeah, he wanted to get back at Pahorn.
Yeah.
And he ends up targeting Helaman.
Yeah, it's like he was consumed by this anger and this lust for power.
And ultimately, those choices lead to his destruction.
Yeah, verse 9 describes it so vividly.
He does.
It came to pass, as they were going forth under the judgment seat, did stab Kishkumen even to the heart, that he fell dead without a groan.
Wow.
What a way to go.
It's a powerful image, and it's a cautionary tale
It is.
about letting those negative emotions control us.
Yeah, vengeance is never the answer.
No, it's not.
So then we have Helaman,
Right.
who finds himself in this really difficult situation.
He does.
I mean, he could have easily just been paralyzed by fear
Right.
or indecision, but instead, he chooses to act.
He does. He shows real leadership.
Yeah, to protect himself and his people.
That's right.
And we can't forget about the servant.
The unnamed servant. The
Yeah.
unsung hero.
Yeah, he was in the right place at the right time.
He was.
Uncovers the plot.
Saves Helaman's life.
Incredible.
Talk about courage, resourcefulness, and quick thinking.
I mean, he just demonstrates that one person can have a huge impact,
Absolutely.
even in ordinary circumstances.
Yeah. And then there's Gideon,
Right.
who chooses a very different path.
Yeah. Path of darkness and deception.
That's right.
And his decision to lead this life of crime and secrecy,
Right.
it has consequences,
It does.
not only for him.
But for generations to come?
Yeah, his story, it's like a warning
Yeah.
that the choices we make can have a lasting legacy.
For better or for worse.
That is a sobering thought.
It is, but it's also empowering.
Yeah.
You know, we have the power to choose
Our path.
to shape our destiny. We can't always control what happens to us.
Right.
But we can control how we respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole story really emphasizes
What do you think it emphasizes?
personal accountability, I think.
Yeah.
And, the need to be vigilant.
And protecting.
Yeah. And safeguarding our values and principles.
Absolutely.
Recognizing that there's both good and evil within us.
Yeah.
And choosing to act in a way that, aligns with our highest aspirations.
That's beautifully said.
And it reminds us that we're not alone in this. Just as Helaman had his faithful servant,
Right.
we can find strength and guidance in our relationships.
Yes.
In our communities.
Our communities.
And in our faith.
Absolutely.
This has been such a fascinating discussion.
It has.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
As we explored this incredible story from the book Helaman, Chapter 2.
It's a great story.
And we hope this discussion has inspired you to think about the choices that you make.
Yeah.
And the impact they have on the world.
And be sure to subscribe to the podcast for more discussions like this.
We'll be back next week